Hello, YouTube. Welcome in, everyone. Today we're doing Masterclass 2 of the Feminine and Masculine Evolution. So let me know when you can see me and hear me. There is a little bit of a lag, and then we will get started. I'm super excited because I feel like we're now getting into like the juicy stuff, into the nitty-gritty of the feminine and masculine. Today, we're also talking about gender roles, which can get a lot of people worked up. Hi, Brianna. Hi, Kitty. Okay, awesome. Thank you for letting me know. Alexandra, welcome. Welcome to all our Level Up Queen members. We've got also some new people joining in. I would love to have you as a channel member. There are a lot of masterclasses coming in the private space starting Monday. We're doing a masterclass on self-leadership. And yesterday, we had a really amazing conversation. In fact, I came up with a hashtag, which will be kind of a secret hashtag between me and my members. And it is hashtag I will walk there. So if you know, you know. I love you guys. Let's get started. Okay. So yesterday in Masterclass 1, which if you missed by chance, if you go to my main YouTube page, I have started a playlist with like all three of these will be in there. So you can go on my main YouTube page and it will show you. Okay. So it'll be the replay. Today so yesterday we talked about my 4 stages: basic babe, self-aware Barbie, million-dollar babe, and high-end divinity. And we also talked about the male corresponding stages. So if you have a man in your life that you think would also benefit from this work, share it with them. Share it with the women in your life, share it with the men. The direction of my teachings is going where I want to be able to support men as well. So everyone's welcome. So you'll see that transition in a lot of my work where I give both female and male examples, and so that everyone can learn something. The I will walk story gave me chills. Yes, 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 yes. That's our new hashtag. I will walk there. So hi, welcome, Valentina. So today what we're doing is we're talking about feminine and masculine energy. Yesterday we talked about the wounding, we talked about the shadows, we talked about the gifts, but you may be wondering, well, Mina, when you say feminine and masculine energy, what do you mean? Well, feminine energy, in the simplest terms, if I have like 2 seconds to explain masculine and feminine energy, this is how I explain it. Feminine energy is the unseen flow of life. Okay. It's the being energy. It's the life force energy. Okay. If you have the money play shop, then using that terminology, it's the 99% realm. Okay. It's the creation, the mystery. Masculine energy, it's the doing energy, it's the structure of life. So using come to me play shop terms, that would be the 1% realm. So if we give the example of structure and flow, we can use this in different ways. So a house is masculine energy, a home is feminine energy. Can you feel into that for a second? A house is masculine energy. It's like the actual brick and mortar, like, structure, the building, the foundation, the thing holding the thing together. And then the feelings inside of it, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of love, that's on the inside. That's the feminine. Yeah. Another example is one that I've been using for many years. I feel like it's a little overused, so I'm trying to think of new examples for you guys, is the riverbed, right? So the riverbed is the masculine, and the river, the flow of the water, the actual water is the feminine. So another example is if you have a business, like let's think of a dentist. The dentist's actual place of business, the receptionist that takes the patients in, the payment structure, the card processing machines, those are all the masculine structures of the business. The artist part of the business, like the fact that she can give you a perfect smile, that's the art form, that's the feminine. So I think I've given enough examples. So when we talk about divine feminine and divine masculine energies, we're talking about the raw form of it, the raw transmission of it. It's the way it created the energies. When we process or channel those energies through a human being, it's changed, it's transformed, right? So for example, let's say there's a wind blowing over here. The wind in its natural form doesn't necessarily have like a texture or a smell or anything, right? But if I'm holding 3 different candles in my hand, when it flows through the rose candle, the wind now smells like rose. When the wind flows from the cherry candle, it now smells like cherry. When it flows through, the blueberry candle, it now smells like blueberries. So when these energies are channeled through us, they transform. And so they become our expression of them. So when we are born, right, we are like, even in utero, everyone starts out being a female. Like every baby, every fetus, I should say, starts off being a female. And then in utero, at some point, there's a decision made of whether it's a female or a male. Now, when this baby is born, this baby will have one core expression or essence, okay, of its sexuality, of its energy, and then it'll also have a secondary essence. So for example, if there's a female baby born, in 90% of the cases, the female will be 80-90% in its essence feminine, and like 10, 15, 20% masculine, just naturally so. I talked about this in my Lady Bells book, that the way that we've evolved, masculine energy was a very important fail-safe system in women. We need that little bit of masculine energy. It helped evolution to have that. Otherwise, it was like a backup plan. And if it wasn't activated, the entire species wouldn't have made it. We wouldn't be here. So both men and women, males and females, have masculine energy and feminine energy. How much depends on certain things. So obviously one of those things is what their core essence is, and then they have the capacity for the second one. But there's other things at play here, and that's what I want to talk to you guys about. So because of the way we evolved, I'm going to open up my training in a second. Let me get that going. Okay, so because of the way that we evolved, so when divine feminine energy moves through a female body, it's expressed in a certain way. When it's moved through a male body, it's expressed through a different way. When divine masculine energy moves through a feminine body or a female body, it's expressed in a certain way. And when it moves through a male body, it's expressed in a certain way. Why is that? Because when it's filtered through the body, there's hormones involved. There is brain wiring, millions of years of code. There's millions of years of evolution. So what has worked for us in every generation and then continues to work and help continue the progress of humanity keeps progressing into the next generation. So men were created and then evolved to have so much testosterone, so much more testosterone than women, right? So that's like, let's say there is a man that is sexually oriented more in their feminine essence and they're attracted to masculine energy beings. Okay, so feminine energy is being expressed through them. This doesn't necessarily change the fact, though, that they're in a male body. they still have a certain level of more testosterone than a woman does. So these are all things to consider. And so when I teach my work, my body of work, we have to understand that we are now evolved in our conscious, and we can say things like, well, gender roles aren't important and men shouldn't have to do that and women can do this. Like, all of that is true, but it is also true that we have a certain programming through millions of years. So for example, if I go to, you know, a man and say, well, you shouldn't have a need for respect in your life, or you shouldn't, just because you're a man, you shouldn't be stronger than me. Well, I can say that all I want, but he is wired because of his testosterone level, the way his brain works, right? There's these wonderful series of books that I highly recommend. One is called The Female Brain and one is called The Male Brain, and it's by the same researcher, scientist, just brilliant work. And she talks about something that's very taboo to talk about these days. In fact, if you're a scientist these days, you can get canceled. The culture has gotten so crazy that you can actually, like, people will try to cancel you for saying that men and women are different. But we can't change biology. Like, we can't deny biology. And so we evolved to have these certain gender rules. Now, we can argue until the cows come home whether these gender roles are good or bad. But the truth is, that's where we came from. And so I have this saying, I heard this from one of my professors. He used to say that if you can break the rules as long as you know the rules. So in tomorrow's class 3, we will be talking about, as modern day humans, we are breaking gender norms. We are breaking gender roles. But are we doing them intentionally? Are we doing it in a way where we're pretending like everything's okay, but it's really not okay, right? So our natural tendencies will always be what they are wired to be. We could have different desires, right? But they're still, like, for example, I am wired to have a baby. Like, a man can't do that, but I can do that, right? I can get pregnant, I can hold a baby, I can grow a baby, all the things. I can have a baby. A man can't do that, right? I can desire not to have a baby and choose not to do so, but I'm still wired to be able to do that. Like, that capability is in me. So we have to consider these things when we say, well, men shouldn't want that, or women shouldn't want that, or where times have changed, you shouldn't need that. If something is so genetically programmed, if the conditioning is there, telling someone they shouldn't want something or not need something isn't enough. So yesterday I sent you guys homework after the first class. And so I'm going to give you the homework for today. One of the questions I want you to start thinking about, and it might not be something that comes to you right away, but I really want you to start contemplating this. And the question is, what does your expression of masculine and feminine look like? What does your expression of masculine and feminine look like? And the second part of this, someone please type that in the chat for us so we have it. And the second part is, how much of this is conditioning? What does it look like, and how much of it is conditioning? So let me give you an example of things that conversations I've had with clients. So let's say that a man and a woman gets married, and her natural essence is feminine energy, meaning she is attracted to masculine energy men sexually. That's her sexual orientation. That's her natural essence. But something happened in her life where she went into her masculine overdrive. She is a self-aware Barbie. And because of this, she has hidden or sent her feminine aspects into the shadow. She is not using those aspects of her being. So even though she deeply craves to be in a relationship with a masculine energy man, The men she actually attracts tend to be either basic boys or self-aware Kens. And so they show up in her life, they agree with everything she says, they go into conserve energy mode, they rest, they coast, and she ends up doing everything in the relationship. She ends up bringing the romance, she ends up bringing the money, she ends up doing all the things. And she is exhausted because of those things, right? So in this mode, if someone looks at them or even if they hire a coach, they say, well, it's like the modern times, it's okay that you are the breadwinner. It's okay that you are the one leading the relationship. Men and women are equal, da 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 da. In this scenario, it's never going to feel right to both of them because there's inner work there to be done. He actually doesn't have the capacity to provide and lead in a way that she needs. And so she's always going to be feeling unmet. And in fact, he's also going to be deep down feeling unmet because even though he coasts and he conserves energy, he wants those masculine aspects of himself activated. But for some reason, he's deactivated them. So in this scenario, they don't have the range to be able to be conscious humans that are intentionally choosing and deciding to braid the energies and which ones they want to bring forth. So let me give you another example where it works differently. Let's say that a husband and wife are healed at their masculine energy. It's integrated in them. The husband has both the masculine and feminine, but his natural essence is masculine energy. Everyone with me? Send me I'm with you in the chat. I'm using a new kind of way of streaming. I want to make sure everything's good. You guys with me? Because I know there's a big lag too. Okay. And he's a masculine energy person, essence being, and he is married to a very feminine essence woman who's also integrated in her masculine. And let's say that he brings the masculine energy, there's romance, there's, she feels provided for, they both have successful careers that they're doing well in, like life is good. Okay, thank you, Kitty. Life is good. But let's say that they have duality show up in their life. Something happens and he, discovers that he needs surgery, let's say, God forbid, right? And because of this surgery, he's going to be kind of like on bed rest for 3 months and he's going to have to take time off of work. Well, for 3 months, there's more pressure sort of put on her, on the wife. So she now needs to bring not only her feminine energy, which she loves to do, but she also needs to bring her masculine energy a lot more than she's used to in the relationship. But she has the capacity to do so. And he's also aware that she's doing so and knows that it's a temporary stand. In this scenario, it's different. Now, if they go to a coach or someone giving them advice and they're saying, oh, well, he's not providing for you, he's a deadbeat, he's da-da-da-da-da, that is incorrect. Because in this moment, that's what's life requiring of them. It's a momentary situation. They have the healthy range to be able to go within their masculine and feminine energies. So it's a very different feeling. Let me give you an example of this that's from my real life. So my uncle, got married young, very, very educated, very nice job, very respectable career. They had 3 kids very kind of early on, and he was the provider of the relationship, of the marriage, stand-up father, stand-up uncle, like amazing guy. His wife was a stay-at-home mom. Like she never worked, but she was educated and she had the capacity to work. If she wanted to, she could have, and strong, brilliant woman as well. So I don't know how long they were married for, but I want to say like he was 70, in his 70s. So like 50 some years they were married. He was the masculine and she was the feminine in the relationship, but they both also had feminine and masculine aspects. At his end of life, for the last 2 years of his life, he was very ill and he got bedridden. And she had to now take on a lot of tasks. Like he had, money invested in everything, so she didn't have to go to work. But a lot of things that he took care of for her, she now had to do. Or she had to hire people, and it was a whole transition for them. She was younger than him, obviously, as well. So, she was still healthy, older, but healthy. And so he needed a lot of care. But the thing that really amazed me is that his tendency of that masculine providing never went away. In fact, when he passed away, my aunt said that she felt very unsafe. And that was a very interesting statement from her, because I was thinking he was literally on bed rest for 2 years, dependent on her and his nurse, but he still made her feel safe. And she said that him just being there and her being able to, I'm going to be emotional, oh my goodness, but her being able to run ideas by him and get guidance from him and get mentorship by him still was him providing, even though he was physically incapable to do so. So if someone caught their entire life story at this one point, it might appear like, oh my God, she's the one providing, right? Like, well, she's in her masculine. But they both were healthy individuals that had that range and capacity to weather the storm of life together. And so when we are building these robust lives with our partner, as parents, as community members, as business owners or career people, we want to have that range in life, because life, your 80, 90, 100 years of life isn't always going to be the same. In fact, that's what makes it so exciting, is that there's going to be different phases, there's going to be different seasons, mental and emotional safety. Yes, yes. This man was on bed rest, bedridden for 2 years. And she said she'd rather have that, totally dependent on her, even to go like to the bathroom, right? She'd rather have that than like feel unsafe with him gone. Like that just shows you what the masculine in our life provides. And he made sure she still didn't have to work. Yep. In fact, she inherited, she's good. Let me just say she's good for life, right? So when we are looking at our entire life journey, there can be a tendency to judge, zoom in just that one area of season of life that we're in. But you have your entire life. So for example, let me give you a reverse analogy of this, a reverse example. I have been a self-aware Barbie since I can remember, since I think I was like 15, 16 years old when I remember making that decision of like, I can't trust anyone. I'm going to have to do everything on my own. I remember that clicking in my brain where I made that decision. I don't know if every self-aware Barbie remembers that moment, but for me, it was like, I remember making that decision. Like, I can't trust anyone. It's all on me. I got to do it all by myself. So I went into that hyper masculine energy drive, and that's where I was, right? When I married Irfan in 2008, and I became a stay-at-home mom, it was very uncomfortable for me. It was very uncomfortable not to work. It was very uncomfortable to have someone doing everything for me. In fact, that was actually more uncomfortable for my nervous system than doing everything myself, which is, it's strange when you really think about it, because I'm a very feminine essence being. I'm attracted to masculine energy, right? So it was very uncomfortable. Well, a year into it, 2 years into it, when I settled in, I had my second baby, right? Like, I'm doing the stay-at-home mom thing. There were a lot of people that were saying, you're wasting your education. Like, you went to school for 8 years and like, you're wasting all of that education, all of that money. Like, if someone was zoomed into my life at that point, from their perspective, I was wasting the cultivation of all of my masculine gifts. I was wasting the cultivation of all of my education, all of my skill sets. But it was just one moment of time. If you zoom out and look at my life now, those same people would be like, oh, wow, like that's what you created from that education. Like you have over 100 courses. By the way, side note, the other day, we've been doing a lot of like back end structuring of our website and everything. And I've been saying I have over 60 courses. And then I was like, I have over 80 courses. On Thinkific, it shows that I've created over 131 products. And I was like, is this a mistake? I don't even remember creating 131 products. But anyways, back to my story. So if they look at it now, they're gonna say, oh, right? So you don't really know the cycle, the story of your entire life. I hope you live to 100, healthy, happy, vibrant. And if we look at your entire journey, we'll see this is where she was using mostly her feminine. This is where she was using mostly her masculine. This is where she was braided. This is where the man comes in. This is the container work they have to do. This is where he's providing for her. This is where he's sick and maybe she has to provide. Then she has her babies. Like it's gonna be this like beautiful journey. But if any one person zooms in this tiny little period of your life, it may look broken. It may look like it's not working. But that's not the whole story. There's nuances to the story. There's phases, there's journeys, right? There will be things that will be brought into your life so you can heal certain aspects of you. There will be things that will be brought into your partner's life so that you can heal certain aspects. There's so much. It's a whole process. And that's why when personally in my life, in my marriage, when I'm faced with duality, I say, what's the lesson here? What's the gift? Where's the expansion? What is this trying to teach me? Where do I need work? What can I do? So what am I saying in this training? Okay, is that gender roles, whether you love them or you hate them, they have been a part of our evolutionary history. We're wired in accordance to those gender roles. You can consciously decide to break them, but your body, your brain, your hormones, your wiring will throw a fit. It will not know what to do with this decision that you've now made. And so how I propose we work with it, this is my sacred work, this is what I teach, this is what I stand for, is that we are aware of how we're wired. We are aware of the gender roles. We expand our range to be able to do them so that natural part of us that feels the most healthiest and alive feels good. We know the rules. We know how to play by the rules. And then we evolve the rules. So I made a post on Instagram, which by the way, you need to be following me on Instagram if you're not already. It's TheUniverseGuru _ is my handle on there, because I'm sharing my behind the scenes from my trip as well. It's more of my behind the scenes, but I made a post about how we benefited from previous ancestors, like previous evolution, but we're also evolving it. Like we're creating evolution right now. The decisions that I make impact my children, impact my grandchildren. The movement that I started on YouTube here with my work impacts your children even, because that's what's becoming the social norm now. That's like what we're creating together. So whether they're following me or not following me, whether they're involved in it, it's impacting society, it's impacting culture, we're creating it here. So when we are aware, so for example, when I was a single mom in school with my real estate business, most of you guys know my story. If you don't, you can hear about it in my book. I knew how to cook. I had a desire to cook. I didn't have time. I cooked sometimes, but most of the time I didn't. My mom had this lady that would cook her from her home, and like we would like basically cater in food from her home, and or we would eat out. So that's what we were doing at this time. Busy real estate season. So I had a desire. So when I married Irfan, for like 9 years of our marriage, when I was doing my inner work, doing the whole stay-at-home wife life, like having my babies, sharing my journey on YouTube, there was no business. It was just me in my home, barefoot, pregnant in the kitchen. I would cook up a storm. Like I cooked every day. And I went through that season of life. Then I went through in the later years of those 9 years, you guys remember that. Some of you guys have been following me long enough, where I started meal prepping because I didn't want to cook every day. So I was like cooking for a whole week and like meal planning. You guys remember that? Irfan and I would cook all these meals and like put them in the fridge. Then after that, I went through a whole like where I was like meal planning for a month. I went through this whole freezer meal stage. Then there was a desire to do something big and new and different. 9 years of doing that, it was like, good, I've got this down. I need something more. I started this business. When I started this business, it like hit the ground running. And all of a sudden, I didn't have a desire to cook anymore. So my mother-in-law was visiting at the time and she was like, why do you cook why do you cook? Like, just hire someone to cook for you. Like, that's what I did. And I was like, oh, I like that. So I hired this, like, it was like these two friends and they lived in the same building, and these two Indian women, and they cooked and they had this like small catering business. And I was like, I met them through my kids went to school with their kids. And so I started talking to them and they started cooking for us. So the desire evolved, right? I get to do that. But that natural tendency of me as a woman wanting to cook for my family, it's still there. And I have the capacity to do that. There are days where I wake up, I'm like, I'm going to cook for you guys today. And then I'll cook up a storm. I have the range to be able to do that. It's within my range. In fact, speaking of breaking gender rules, Irfan loves to cook. He's a foodie. He loves to eat and he loves to cook. So same as my dad loved to cook. So, in my mom, so we have the gender roles, we have the range, but we can also break them. A lot of times Irfan cooks. Most of the time we have like 3 or 4 catering companies. We have cooks that cook for us, but he'll wake up and he'll say, I feel like cooking this today. So because we have this healthy range, we can break gender roles. It's not like, oh, I'm a woman, but I don't have the capacity or the range to cook because that would mean I'm not being provided for and I'm, a 90s, 50s housewife or something. No, like sometimes I feel like cooking. There was a period of my life where I couldn't do that. And then there was 9 years where I did it every day. If you look at my whole 100-year existence at the end of my life, there will be many seasons. So we have to stop like looking at our partners or even when we're dating and like choosing based on like this very limited zoomed out state that we're in right now, because that will change. We need to be finding people that are growth mindset, that are willing and committed to grow with us till the end of time. Metal and Hammer said, how do we know if we're going through a healing type issue versus he's a predator and he has to go? That is a very good question. So I would say look at his values. That is the number one thing. So trust and health there's an element of consistency to it, right? So for example, if someone shows up, first of all, I would even stop before this. What family did he come from? What's his DNA like? This is important because there's DNA and then there's epigenetics. How was he raised? Is there a lot of trauma in his background? Okay. In the American Western culture, I keep saying American. In Europe, a lot of the women were correcting me that it's really a Western thing. Okay, so we say Western. In fact, one of my Indian attendees said that this is happening a lot in India too. The thing with the Eastern culture is we still look at bloodlines and family when choosing partners, and this is important. When we break it, it's usually not good, okay? So if there's a lot of trauma in the bloodline, you can still choose that person as long as they've gone through a healing. Otherwise, you are now inheriting a big project. And what if they don't want to heal? What if they don't want to do inner work? Now you have a problem. Okay. So Meadow said bad family, lots of trauma. Okay. Has this person gone through healing? Is this person growth mindset? Is this person even willing to go? Because I would say that if I was in a dating scenario and I met someone that had a lot of family trauma and they were not willing to get help, they were not, in a process of doing inner work, that's not an energetic match for me because I will probably drive this person crazy. I'm doing inner work all the time. In fact, most people don't even understand. They're like, but you're so successful. Like, why would you be doing inner work? Because successful people are elite performers. That's what got them there. That's like saying, but you're Michael Jordan. Why are you practicing? Practicing made Michael Jordan better, right? You can't go to an Olympic athletes. I know the Olympics are going on right now, so let's use that as an example. I'll tell them, you're so great. Why do you need to practice? So we are not an energetic match. No, I'm not saying, it's not even like that person is not worthy of me. I'm not going to be a good match for that person either. Because me talking about inner work and personal development will drive this person batshit crazy. You really do, yes, marry the entire bloodline. Bloodlines are important. DNA is important. Can you change things? 1000%. But you cannot drag someone through change that they do not want to have. You can't. So we are looking for a growth mindset person. Now, let's say I was in a dating scenario and there was someone that was a front runner of mine and they had a lot of trauma and they told me this and they said, oh my goodness, I come from a family like this happened and this happened. And then I had to go to therapy and then I had to go through this modality and I did this inner work and I've had to overcome this and I've contemplated this. That might be my person. That actually might be more my person than someone that came from a perfect family because I have trauma in my background. So can you see that? So that's going to be like, I get you. Oh my God, I had to do inner work too. That is something where we're in an energetic match because in this situation, the trauma doesn't matter because epigenetics matters more. But if someone shows up that I have to drag to therapy, that I have to deal with their emotional outbursts, that I have to deal with their anger issues, we are not a good match. That's not fair to them and it's not fair to me. Because when I have things show up, I get help. I'm an elite performer. At any given time, I've got coaches. Right now, I'm in 4 different mentorship and coaching containers at any given time. Why? Because I'm playing the Olympics here. So if I'm dealing with someone that's in toddler consciousness with their inner work, that's not fair to them and it's not fair to me. So that's what I would say about that. A lot of times, people make very emotional decisions when they're marrying. And that's why marriage is not for women, especially, it's not supposed to be an emotional game. Your emotions come in later when you're pair bonding with your husband, not before. That's why we've always had family involved in our decisions so that the emotions don't take over and we end up choosing the wrong partner. Okay, let me go back to my training and see if there was something else I wanted to say about this before I open up the Q&A further. Yes, okay, so I talked about, okay, so is everyone clear? Let me actually, I think at this point it might be more useful for me to do the Q&A. I feel like the Q&A, my intuition is saying, is going to bring out more of the gender roles training. Let me recap for you guys. Gender roles are important because we're wired according to them. I believe in order to have a healthy, happy relationships, we need God. Marriage requires some kind of a belief in higher power, not necessarily religion, but some kind of a belief in higher power. We need an understanding and range in gender roles because that's how we're wired. And then we need your ability to play with that. So because we are modern humans, I talked about in Divine Huck. By the way, if you haven't taken my Divine Huck masterclass, highly recommend it. It's like, it will show you how to work with your natural wiring. Let me find it for you. Is this acting? Oh. If you go to my website, I'll try to pull it up here, but if it doesn't come up, if you go to my website and go to new masterclasses, like for 2024, I think I have it, or new something masterclasses, you'll find it there. But I'll put it in the comments afterwards. It's a really potent training. But in there, I talked about how marriage has evolved. So back in the day, marriage was a survival mechanism. We married just to survive, right? And then marriage changed to love. We got married because of love. Well, now we are in the season of life where marriage is not just about love. Now it's about becoming the best versions of ourselves. So essentially, we're marrying someone that wants to activate their biggest potential and their biggest gifts. And we want to activate our biggest potential and our biggest gifts in our union as well. So there's a lot more pressure put on marriage these days. We're requiring so much of it, right? I talked about in Divine Huck, if back in the day you got married and you managed to like not die, that was considered a successful marriage. Love wasn't even a part of the equation. Love wasn't a part of the conversation. Well, now it's like, not only do we have to survive together, like, I want you to love me. I want you to be my best friend. I want you to be my everything. I want you to be my therapist. I want all these gifts. I want you to be my travel partner. And I want you to activate my biggest potential. There's so much more pressure, and we can do it. The thing is that when we do it well, it's brilliant. And then otherwise it completely crumbles. There's no in between. It's like completely polarized. And so in order to break the gender rules, I believe we need to understand them and have that range. So for example, if you married a healthy masculine energy man and you're a healthy feminine energy woman, and then you both activate your $1 million man, your $1 million babe stage, you have that range, you have that integration, you have that braiding. And tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about what braiding is and what that looks like, right? There could be seasons of your marriage where, you're living off of investments. And so someone else might be like, well, I thought he's supposed to be providing. Why isn't he providing? Well, it's because, like, let me give you guys an example. I think I shared this in Barkat in Budapest. That's where we're at right now. So when someone says, who pays for this? I have a very hard time answering it. Unless it's like a business thing, then it's easy. My business paid for it. Why do I have a very hard time answering it? I know who paid for it. It's because the average person will not understand, because most people don't ever reach the state of financial security that we're in. So the dividends and investments that come from our portfolio are twice our monthly expenses. So when people are like, oh, well, did you pay for this or did Irfan pay for this? My estate paid for it. Our estate did. So that's why there's a training that's been coming in, and I'm not sure where it's gonna go, in the 99% realm or maybe in the Level Up Queens. I don't know yet where it's gonna go. Maybe I'll wait until the love semester, but it's called the layers of providing, or the stages of providing. what I want for you, and this is my desire. Of course, it doesn't have to be your desire, but this is what I would want from me. This is what I wanted and I got. And this is what I want for my clients and my children as well, is that you start off doing the thing the way that your DNA responds to the best and his DNA responds to best. And then you create enough wealth where you invest it and then you live off of that wealth, and then the whole conversation of money goes away. Money is like tap water in my life. I don't open this faucet and like, is it going to come out? Like it's there. Like, duh, it's like tap water. That's where I want you to get. But in the beginning, it is going to be where, the conversation of providing is going to come in. Not just because it's about money, because there's an energetic like structure that goes with it. There's a taking leadership. There's a being a man of the house and a woman of the house. And then that's going to evolve later. What's happening right now is I feel like a lot of people are taking my work in a very juvenile way. And they're making it all about the money. And they're not understanding the bigger picture. And they're just going and getting, finding the guy that can like buy them the most gifts right now, but not really looking at his emotional health, his family, his values. Does he have a growth mindset? How will he treat you through the ups and downs? Like, what kind of a father will he be? Like, there are people that are just not understanding. Like, there's a brilliant quote in the new Pakistani movie that's been playing in theaters, and it's just taking the world by a storm. It's the first sci-fi movie that Pakistan has ever created. There's a line in there where the guru in the movie, his name is Guruji, he says, you can't, what I hope I'm not going to butcher it, but it's something to, you can't know beyond your knowledge. So people can only understand things up to their knowledge. And how I would rephrase that is that you can't learn things beyond your level of consciousness. And so if your consciousness is kind of basic babe, we talked about this yesterday, you want to turn everyone into a parental figure because you have an inner child wound. You have a dependency shadow. You're now turning into this dependent kind of stay-at-home mom. You're going to get yourself in trouble. You're actually setting women backwards. Like we're here building on evolution. Everything that's happened and that got us here, we're building on top of it. We're not trying to go backwards. So this isn't about you not having access to money. This isn't about like you're never going to have to work ever in your life. If you're a healthy individual, you want to work, you love to work. Maybe you haven't found the right work yet, but we came here to work. There's a very famous quote in the evolutionary science community that there was no such thing as an unemployed Homo sapien. We all had a role. We all had an important part in the community. And so that's how we've evolved. And I want you to look at this as a whole journey that you're going on with someone. Okay, any questions from our members before I open up the chat and see if anyone else has a question? Like, for example, when people say to me, oh, but Mina, he provides for everything and now I have a business and I'm starting to earn money. Now what? Great. That's what I want for you. You're creating the legacy money. He's creating the money that provides, you're creating the legacy money. Okay, what do we get to do with that? Like by the time I started my business, we were already on Dave Ramsey my husband had made and invested $2 million. We were living off of that. We were financially retired. So when I started my business, there was no question of, oh no, like is Mina providing now? No, like our investments are providing. There's no person attached to our providing now financially, but my husband is still the leader of the house. He still has that provider DNA. He takes care of literally everything. You guys saw him at the Barkat Intensive. Like you see his masculine energy. Like I do not have to lift a finger emotionally, energetically, physically, like everything is done. He thinks of things I can't even imagine into making sure that my kids are well, I'm well. But if you look at it out like dollars and cents, well, our situation changed in 2016 because Irfan wanted to be financially independent. We discovered the fire community. We invested money. Everyone has the ability to do that. But then, you can't be looking at it as the same lens. You can't say, well, I can't have my estate providing. I can't be living off of dividends because that means my husband isn't providing. No, that's still providing. Looking out for your future, investing, paying off your house, having a 401k, having a portfolio, that is provider energy. It just changes because now you're in a different wealth status. You get to do that. My clients do that. Eventually, it gets to a point where it's not so much about the dollars and cents. Let me give you an example. So I had a client a few years ago that got married. She is a very, very high achieving career woman, and she got married to a very, very high achieving career man. And so before they got married, they discussed gender roles and he was on board. He had never had a chance to do that. And he was like, I'm in. Like, that sounds amazing. I've always wanted to do that. Let's try it out. So they get married and he's paying for everything and she's still running her business. And so she starts using her money to buy more business things and like improving her equipment in her business and hiring more team. Well, we get on a coaching call once and she's like, Mina, we're having a little bit of a confusion on how to deal with this one thing. And I was like, shoot, give it to me. What is it? And she goes, well, I was supposed to go on this work convention thing and I'm taking my whole team and it's like a work thing that we do every year. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. And she's like, well, my business pays for that. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's a business expense. Of course, your business pays for that. And she said, well, but when I mentioned it to my husband, he said, let's turn it into a trip. And he wants to come. And he's like, he's going to entertain himself while I'm doing the teamwork, the business portion. But after that, we're planning on going here and here and here. And I said, that sounds amazing. She's like, well, who pays for that? And because she's like, well, because usually when we travel, he pays for this. But now, like, I need to be able to write this off. I'm like, okay, listen, you are a businesswoman. Okay. He is a businessman. They had, their successful careers. So I'm like, you do the thing that makes the most financial sense. I'm like, now you are a joint unit. And there is a way to file taxes and do things that are very CEO mode. So in this mode, because your business can write off your travel and the travel of your employees, your business pays for that. You don't worry about, oh, but like, what's going to happen? And is he not providing? I'm like, you are beyond that because you've already activated the capacity and the range for him to be able to provide and you to be able to receive. Now we're not getting into, I'm like, if I found out that your business could have written something out, it could have been a business expense and you made your partner pay for that. Like, that's such a bad business decision that I can't even stand behind that. That makes no sense. I would never do that. That is stupid. That's not you being CEO boss babe, right? That's not you doing the thing that it needs to be done. So we're not like smashing our brain and saying we're not going to do things the way it makes sense. You are now a joint estate. You need to make good, sound financial decisions for yourself and your family. And so that's why when you're a business owner, having an accountant, having a tax attorney, having people that can advise you about this stuff beyond just this one, application, this one, like there has to be a bigger picture of the whole thing. So when you're in a certain mode, you can start thinking about what actually makes sense for the us part of the union, right? You're doing your individual inner work. You're doing your collective joint relationship inner work. And then there's your estate, your legacy. You have to do what makes sense. It doesn't matter about what someone else is saying or what, it's okay to embody work and then outgrow it because it's integrated. Let me see what you guys are saying. I just got pregnant. Congratulations, Laura. And I was building my online business. Thanks, Mina, for this training. Now I get the confirmation that I can continue growing my business after I have my babies? Of course, you get to have a full life. You get to have a full life. You will know when something is misaligned because of how you feel. And then I trust, because I know you're doing your inner work, I trust that when that happens, you will pause and you will reevaluate and say, okay, do I need to tweak something? Am I over giving in this area and maybe not so much here? You get to do that. I have moments where I'm like, my energy feels off. Is something misaligned? Like, okay, this needs to change. Okay, this needs to be moved here. This needs to be done this way. You get to do that. So when you first come into my world, you learn the gender roles, you learn the feminine and masculine energetics, you do the work, you do the inner work, you heal it, you activate and help your partner. And then once it's integrated, you have to add to the evolution part too, right? So you benefit from the evolution of our ancestors, how we're wired. How are you progressing it to the next level? What's the thing that you get to tweak? What's the thing where you're in play mode? What's the thing that you evolve? Let's see. For my legacy money and generational gifts is the most exciting thing right now. For me, legacy money and generational gifts is the most exciting thing right now. Thinking about my descendants makes me happy. Yes, 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 yes. See, that's a different stage. You can't do that when you're in survival yourself, when your providing part hasn't been taken care of. So now if someone looks at you and they're in their providing stage, like they're in the survival state, they can't even relate to you yet. But that's okay, knowing that we don't have to make someone else's stage wrong to be in the stage that we're at. Understanding that someone else is in a completely different stage. In fact, when I have friends and if I hear any kind of comparison in what they're saying, I'm like, but babe, you're in the stage that I was 10 years ago when my babies were little. You can't compare that to me. That's not fair. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to me. We're in different stages. You get to have what I have, but maybe not at this exact moment. It might not be the right timing. So that's why I think the seasons that I talk about, use them as a template. They're not gospel, they're not, dogma, but they're useful to say, where am I? And yes, you get to have more stages, you get to have more things, but that's not where you might be at this exact moment. We don't all have the container for that either. We have to keep that in mind. I didn't have the container for what I've manifested in my life 5 years ago. If I did, I would have had it 5 years ago, but I didn't have it 5 years ago because I have the container now for it. Emily said, my husband is proud to pay for school and self-investment for me because he knows it's going to build our children as adults. Yes, yes. Our education isn't about just the masculine achievements, which I love that as well. But my education raises my children for sure. Moms need to be educated and they need to keep self-educating. When I say education, I don't just mean a college degree. That's very important to me. Absolutely. Those are part of my values. But I also mean self-education, continued education. Every useful profession on the planet, every important profession on the planet requires continuing education. The thing with moms, and I think as modern day high achieving women in general, our continuing education is every day. I learn something new every single day. My continuing education isn't just a course I take once a year. It's every single day. It's in my embodiment. It's in the way that I speak, the way that I teach, the way that I move, the way that I live, so that I can be the greatest example of the divine feminine energy expression through me, the divine masculine expression through me, and then everything else that I'm building, my legacy, my business, my I would say generational wealth, everything, all of it, my teachings. Yes, multiple things can exist at the same time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let me open up the chat for a few minutes, answer any questions. Oh, quick reminders before I do that. Barkat now has the recordings of the Budapest Intensive, and for the next 24 hours left, we have 555 off. So I can't enter, for some reason, I can't log into my bit.ly. But I'll put all these links. They are in the description box and I'll put them in the chat. I don't know why my bit.ly is acting up. That is super annoying. Why is it doing that? Okay. So that's I emailed that out. So I'm let it go, Mina. Okay. Bitly is not working. We're gonna let it go. So back here. So I emailed it out and I'll email it out again. So that's happening. Also, the persecution wound masterclass, which I honestly think every single woman needs that has great desires and plans on doing big things. Every single woman needs that. You also need that if you want to improve your sisterhood skills, your mother skills, all of those things. So that's coming up on 8/8. The semester for energetics of entrepreneurship, which again is more about self-leadership. So even if you don't plan on having a business yet, I know the desires change, it's still going to be useful in your career, in your home life. So that semester enrollment ends on the 7th of August. So just 5 more days. Okay. All of those links are in the description box. Okay, I'm going to open up the chat. And of course, Skynath begins on 8/8. We're beginning, the first course is Persecution Wound, and we're doing a special training. If you're in Kainat, by the way, or in the semester, log in, go to the portal. All the information is there now. I'm also going to have my team email it out to you so that you know that when we're meeting on 8/8. So we're having an onboarding call on 8/8. I'm also going to give you a Lioness transmission because that is the Lionsgate portal. And then the persecution wound information, class information is in the course dashboard as well for that. So all of the things are coming together. Okay. All right, lovies, chat's open. Questions about our training today? And then, of course, we'll be back tomorrow as well for part 3. Please share this with someone you think might benefit from knowing this stuff. I also don't want you to think that you're going to be bound by gender roles forever. We want to soothe that DNA part of us that craves those things so badly. We want to give it once it's saturated, once it knows it can have it, once it's like met, you might have other desires, right? Like you might evolve into like my cooking example. Once I got the opportunity to cook delicious meals for my family for 9 whole years every single day, I kind of like that part felt complete and whole and solid. And now I don't have to cook every single day, but I love being able to cook when I feel like it. So you don't feel like you're bound by it. You're going to go through different seasons. Linnea, I think it is. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. She said, I'm currently building a business. My man provides for me now, but we are thinking of working together in my business once it's launched. Do you think this will throw things off? So here's my answer to that. Yes, but I want you to do it anyways. Because here's the thing. The next part of your growth in your marriage and in your inner work will come after things are thrown off. So the point in our marriage isn't so that we just kind of sit scared. Do not rock the boat. Do not breathe. Do not make sudden movements. We are perfect and we plan on staying this way even if it kills us. That's not the point, okay? So as my business has grown bigger and bigger and bigger, there has been things that Irfan has had to handle. So let me give you an example. In my husband's career, he is a process improvement expert. So he has gone to the biggest companies in the world, like flown all over the world. That's what he was doing when I met him. All over the world to help process improve Lean Six Sigma companies. So in my company, it doesn't make sense for me when I hit those issues that those companies have hit. Now I'm like, well, I would really benefit from someone like helping me, someone like Irfan, but I can't ask Irfan for help because that's going to throw things off. Because I happen to be married at someone that is a genius at like leaning out businesses and increasing profit. So why on earth would I not use his skill sets? Right? So has it at times thrown things off? Yes. Have we had to navigate those things? Yes. Have we had to expand our container to be able to do so? Yes. Did it make us better business people? Yes. Did it help our marriage? 1000%. It has made us more robust. And so now when things show up, we're not trying to avoid that things don't go wrong. We're like, ooh, okay, we're not so solid in this area. What do we need to do? Let's work on this. And so you're now going to have to, you and your hubby are going to have to learn new skill sets. But here's the thing, I would rather you learn those skill sets, even if it's painful in the middle, than not have those skill sets. Because what if those skill sets activate the next level? What if that leads to you being better parents, better human beings? What if it leads to one of you creating something that like changes humanity? What if you cure cancer? Do you know what I mean? So I would not want to keep myself away from something just because it's scary or just because it might throw things off in the moment, because I believe that my husband and I have the capacity to work through anything, anything. Even if it's uncomfortable. We have gone through so many uncomfortable things together. OMG. We've had to have so many uncomfortable conversations, but every single time when I look back, I'm like, that's what made us more robust. That's what helped us. That was made us fall more in love. That's like, it's not that we never had problems. It's that it now gives us solid ground to know that no matter what shows up, we can work through it. Thank you, Steph. I appreciate that. The discount, you don't need a code for it. It's off of my Barkat course. Let me find the link for you. I'm gonna log in and find it. And so because I added 5 more recordings to that from the Barkat Intensive in Budapest, I decided to do like a special celebration price for you guys. So I'm gonna try to get that link over to you guys. Oh my God, I just discovered I could probably do it. My computer is acting up. I could probably do it so much faster on my phone. Here's the crazy thing. Oh my God. Can you believe we now live in a world where you can run an entire 8-figure business, global brand from your phone? Like it just blows my mind how we're able to do that. Okay. I'm gonna just join here and add it. Genius. Why didn't I think of that sooner? Okay, there's the link. I added it from my phone. Ta-da, right? We get to do all the amazing things that technology and new consciousness and evolution allows, while also making sure that our DNA and everything is feeling safe and good. Just bought Lady Balls. Yay! Let me know what you think. This is awesome. Thank you, Mina, long-time subscriber here. Hey, babe. I like your example. It makes sense for them to work together. But what if it is just a boyfriend who would like your academic help, full provider, several years, not married? So I'm not going to be really great to give you boyfriend advice because it's not a part of my teachings and my work. I come from an Eastern culture background, and my studies are on evolution studies, anthropology, psychology, sociology, all of those things. And I have not been able to find good frameworks on boyfriend, girlfriend, because it's a very new thing. And it creates a lot of distortions in relationships. Of course, for some people it works, and if it works for you, it's great. My work won't really be of help with it. This is where my work will not be able to help you. So I think that I feel like most in integrity, where I can tell you where I can help you, but also tell you where I can't help you, because then you're not thinking my work will resolve some issue that it won't. You'll notice I don't really have any teachings on boyfriend, girlfriend. That's where my work will fall short. Lady Balls is such an amazing book. Thank you so much for that. Yay, I love that you love it. Thank you, thank you. Hi, Motivational Mama, missed you too. This is making sense. Thank you. Growing and learning together is better than staying in the same place out of fear. I agree. And I am very much growth mindset. I love expanding. I think that if Irfan and I stayed the same, um, I think that would bore me. It would, I don't think that we would be where we were if we were like in a safe space forever. Like you get to feel safe in your union, in your marriage, but then you also get to do new and novel and scary things that expand both of you. And it is uncomfortable. I totally get it. I totally get it. At every new stage, it's very uncomfortable. We're wired to want to avoid uncomfort, right? I now see a big reason I haven't manifested a full provider is that I didn't have the capacity for it. I know, unfortunately, I didn't either at some point. I needed it to work. My container would have exploded. I'm now surrendering into my feminine reception. Babe, it takes a lot of self-awareness to be able to say that. And see, first of all, see that, and second of all, say that. So I feel you. I remember the first groceries trip that we went on after our marriage. When I moved to my husband's home in a different state. And so we had to go and like get groceries. Irfan used to travel like all the time during that season. So he was like barely home. So when I got there, it was like, okay, let's fill up the cupboards and the pantry and the fridge. And so we went grocery shopping. And I remember when it was time for us to like pay and he pulled out his credit card. I thought I was gonna have a full-on panic attack and like pass out. I think I was having a panic attack. I was in a state of just extreme panic. I don't know why, even though he had paid for meals, he had paid for my even things for my family at that point where we were engaged. But in that moment, it was big. And I'm like, oh my God, like I have to be able to be okay with this. If a man my father likes and wants me to marry is not yet a full provider, how can lean back to become a stay-at-home wife sooner? So what are we meaning by full provider? Is my first question. I would be very curious. Also, I would be very curious, what does your dad see in this guy? And does he actually match the other requirements on your love list? So that's where I would love some feedback. Can you talk about the stage between survival and thriving as a married couple? What helped you through it? Oh my God. So Brianna, this is where we were kind of in our minimalist stage. So I have this, one of my unique gifts is I have the ability of making the most of any situation. And I don't think everyone has this, like activated this, but in fact, some people take this negatively. Like they think like, oh, it's like everything's easy for you or everything comes easy for you. The truth is that I have this really unique ability to be in gratitude for what I have while still holding desire. So when we were in this stage, so let me tell you when we were in the stage. So when I got married to Irfan, he was paying for everything. I didn't have a job. I quit my business, moved into a different state, like handed over my condo to my parents. Like I came with nothing into this marriage except for what I was on my like wearing on my person, literally, and my son. Like here we are. Of course, I had my education and everything in me, but I didn't bring money or anything to the relationship. So my husband was making, I think, $140,000, $150,000 a year at that time, which, you know, six-figure salary, really great. But we had our dream. I wanted a paid off house, and he was like a year or two away from paying off that house, the one in the other state. And so we had a goal, a priority. So we were living off of like $40,000, $50,000 a year, even though he had a much larger salary, because we were taking all of that excess money and paying off the house and building up our investments. Now, some people that saw my life, that knew me from before, that knew I was making multiple six figures a year in my real estate business, would say things like, don't you think you downgraded your lifestyle? Well, if you looked at the car I was driving and like the designer brands I was wearing, yes, that's true. That what I could now buy for a moment did go down. Some women would not accept that at all, and I respect that. I so respect you for that. And if those are your like requirements, you're non-negotiable, I respect that. And you should have that. For me, I was in, to be quite honest with you, the state I was in when I married Irfan, with my mom having cancer, me having burnout, like it just so much. I think if I hadn't married him, I don't know what would have happened to me in Irma, honestly. I think I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Like he literally saved my life. So when I moved in with him, he adds me to all his bank accounts. He gives me 3 or 4 credit cards. He gives me the keys to he had a paid off Toyota Camry. I had a Lexus that I left, right? So yes, it may seem like I had a downgrade, but the Lexus that I was driving, it was an $800 lease payment, $800 a month. That thing guzzled gas like crazy. And by the way, I now own that exact, like I have that same make and model outright. So I got to have the car back. I just had to wait a little bit, okay? Now I had a Toyota Camry that was paid off, that I didn't have to worry about the payments, that I just went and swiped their funds card and like the gas was filled up. So on some level, my friends that were still back home in Chicago, they were like, why would you marry this guy and downgrade your lifestyle? But I now had peace in my life. Okay. I was sleeping better. Like I didn't have to worry about my phone bill and my mortgage and this bill and that bill and collecting rent from all of my tenants and all the bills. Like to me, it wasn't a downgrade. So I looked at it as like every month, or not even every month, every time someone would call me, I would look at my phone and be like, oh my God, I don't have to pay this phone bill. Thank God my husband like got me this phone. Every time I would drive the Toyota Camry, I wasn't like, oh my God, I don't have a Lexus anymore. I was like, oh my God, it feels so good to drive a car that we own outright. Like it was just a very different mentality. Okay. So of course, Irfan knew that I was used to buying designer things and stuff. So like for birthdays, for anniversaries, I got to have things. Like, in fact, I started my YouTube channel doing Louis Vuitton hauls. So I had a nice life. Now, if you compared it to my single life, where I was really reckless with money, let's just be honest, it might not look the same, but I had inner peace and happiness. And I would rather have someone buy me a brand new Camry that I own than a Lexus with an $800 payment that was driving me crazy every month, right? And then when later on my business was able to buy me a car. So like, it works out. So now we can go, like Irfan and I can go and we can buy any car, and these things are now tax write-offs. Like we're business owners now. We do things really, really smart and strategy, right? Now, if a basic babe's watching, it's like, oh, she's lying. Like she's not, like we're in a different phase now, right? When you're a business owner, you think differently. You think, what can I write off? What makes sense? What, like you move differently. Also, there's dividend payments, there's, capital gains. There's so many things that go on behind the scenes when you are in a different bracket of wealth. But in that time, I focused on the things that I didn't have to work hard for, the mental sanity that I had, the fact that I could stay at home with my kids. I didn't have to, get a nanny or put my kids in daycare. Whereas there's nothing wrong with that if you want to do that, but I didn't want to do that. I was forced to do that, and it didn't feel good to me. I wanted to enjoy that time with my kids at home. It was really important to me. Yes. So that's why, like, is it true that I took a pay cut by marrying Irfan? Yes, momentarily. But I took a huge gain in my health, in my happiness, in my family life. To me, that's more important. I want, like, the reason I want money in my life, is to bring peace. So if it's not bringing peace, like that $250,000, $300,000 that I was earning on my own, it was a lot of headache. It was very hard as a single mom, as a full-time student. It was really hard. I cried a lot of times. I was very overwhelmed. So Irfan's $140,000, $150,000 was worth way more to me than my $250,000. And the truth is, when I launched my business, that's what I made the first year. Exactly, this is the craziest thing. The point where I stopped, like the income that I stopped, and then didn't have any income for like 9 years, didn't work. When I launched my business, that first year I made the exact same amount. Isn't that crazy? It's like that's where my container was locked. And then I started making more after that because I'm like, that's interesting. Is that all I'm like able to hold? So yeah, my story is I think that it's not just about the numbers. It's about how do you feel with that money? I needed that time to rest. I needed that time to heal. I wanted to be present for my babies. I wanted to build something really solid with my husband. So now at this point, in August we met in August. So August is 16 years for us, and October will be 16 years married for us. Now at this point, it honestly doesn't matter who earns more, who brings worth. In fact, we are spending our dividend earnings. So now if someone says, who's providing for what? I don't even know how to answer that. If you ask me, was this a business expense? I could answer that more clearly because I know what we're writing off. But our dividends, our monthly dividends are twice as much as our monthly expenses. So who's providing? God. My estate. Like that's going to be my answer. But it took 16 years to get here. I finally mustered up my savage diva energy to step away from my boyfriend and start rotational dating. Oh my God, what one of the men in my rotation was willing to do for me on the first date literally made me sob. Oh my gosh, Sharon, it looks like you're expanding your container of receiving. And sometimes that's what it takes for our boyfriend to step up, for the guy to realize, oh my God, because human beings, we're wired to take things we have for granted. It takes a special level of skill to appreciate what you already have. Men that fried single mom feeling being taken care of is the best. That step down in spending is so worth it when you're building an empire with provider because it really does all come back. Yes, and here's the thing, Emily. I have met, because of what I do, I often end up coaching people that are even more financially well off than I am. Like one of my clients that I'm coaching right now, her net worth is $300 million, way more than ours. Like, so, but I hear things and I see things and it really expands my own brain because I'm like, wow, because a lot of times we think, oh, once we have this much money, we're not going to be thinking this or acting like this, but it's the same things amplified. So going through that phase where I had to almost step back a little bit in money, but not in quality of life. Gosh, my quality of life was like so much better, right? Like I got to sleep in and rest and heal and just be with my babies and all that stuff. What it gave me is that a lot of times people that are really wealthy, they often have fear that they're going to lose it. Well, here's the thing. I don't have that fear because even when I didn't have the money, like when we were like living off of less, life was great. We still had each other. We still had beautiful moments. We had everything we needed. And the truth is that what Irfan and I have individually, our education, our like mindset, our values, our work ethic, we're not the type of people that would ever starve, first of all, because we're just not those people. We're just made of something different, right? Like we know how to work. We know how to make money. We know how to do things. So one reason is that. Secondly, I know that the things that are truly, truly valuable and bring us joy are, it gets amplified with money, but it's not necessarily dependent on money, if that makes sense. So I think that phase really helped me. And I have some clients that skip that stage where they didn't have that stage where like they went back and were able to prove them to themselves that they can live on less too, and not that $150,000 was less. But here's the thing, even though Irfan was making 140, 150 at the time, we were living off of 40 or 50. So we were like kind of in our minimalist stage. But it paid off because all the extra money, he was throwing that at investments. He was investing like crazy. Like we paid off that house. Then we moved to Texas. We bought a house here. We paid that off. We had, like most people have a 30-year mortgage. We had a mortgage on that house because our other house we had rented and we didn't want to cash out our investments. And I didn't have a job, business, anything. It was all on that one income. So when we bought our Texas home, the previous home, we got a mortgage and I was very uncomfortable with that. I told Irfan, like my identity is now I get to have a paid off house. And he's like, we'll pay this off in 5 years. I said, okay. He paid it off in 3 years. How was he able to do this? Because I was willing to play the part of like the minimalist wife. We were like couponing. We were doing all the things. Okay. Like, I'm not saying you have to do those things, but that's where we were. We did the frugal thing for a while. We took, 1 or 2 vacations a year, but like we were like very conscious about the flights and the hotels. Now I fly only for my whole family only flies first class. That time we were like, what's the cheapest flight? Now we'll drop like $3,000, $4,000 a night for a suite, the presidential suite. That time it was like, what's the we were in like the Marriott, like the normal stage, like the $100 a night, $150 a night. But we enjoyed that. That felt like luxury at that time. That like it to me, like being able to be at home with my kids and knowing that my financial future is being provided for was more important. In fact, I don't think do you think it's a weird coincidence that the year that he achieved his FIRE number which was $2 million, we thought when we had $2 million, we can live off the investments. And there's a way to calculate it. If you guys are interested, you can look up the Trinity study. You can look up your FIRE number. At that time, our FIRE number was $2 million. And FIRE means financial independence, retire early. That's the number where you can just invest the money and live off of it for the rest of your life and never run out of money. So that was our number. He reached that number in 2016. Do you think it's a coincidence that in 2017 I started this business? I don't think so. I think that subconsciously I needed to feel safe and like everything's done, like I don't ever have to worry about money to really do this the right way. Because when I launched my business, it wasn't about the money. Like that $2 million that he had invested, it would pay for our lifestyle then for the rest of our lives, forever. So we weren't in the legacy state so much at that moment, but we were good. The 5 of us were gonna be good. We were taken care for. And that's the point where it was like, oh, well, now I'm not in survival anymore. Now I'm good. And then the desire of like, well, how do I pay this forward? Other people need to hear about this. Other people need to create this. And that's when the business was created in 2017. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that if I can help women feel safe in their marriage, in their body, in their home, in their work, in the world, if they can feel safe to get out of survival, every single woman that impacts with my work, that engages with my work, will create something beautiful. Because the way we are, when we're safe, when we're good, we stop thinking about ourselves and we start thinking about the world. We start thinking about, well, what can I do now for other people? We get into overflow. That's what happened to me. I went into overflow. Did you guys ever argue about that before you came around to it, or were you okay with it from the start? What do you mean, babe? Argue about which point? I don't know which point you typed it, so sorry, I missed that part. If I'm being honest, I have a boyfriend and I'm scared to walk away, scared of losing his financial and emotional support, but I deeply desire divine union and marriage. So, does he know that that's what you desire? Would be my first question. Secondly, does he know that you desire enough to where he might lose you if he doesn't want that? Does he also want that? Here's the thing, Sydney. Of course, I don't know your full situation and you have to make the best decision for yourself. But here's what I know. At every point in my life, if I look at, like, I've been in every extreme situation. You guys know I've been homeless. I've had food insecurity in my life. In 43 years, I've been through all of the different seasons. I am so glad that I didn't limit what I got to have with the current state of my finances. I never let money give me permission for my desires because what I considered a lot of money previously is like pocket change to me now. But if I didn't let myself desire, I wouldn't have what I have now. So if I let finances keep me stuck in what kind of education I could have, if I let finances dictate what kind of relationship I get to have, if I let finances dictate what kind of person I get to be, I wouldn't be where I am today and I wouldn't be who I am today. So whatever your current situation is, don't let your entire life be dictated by that because you have a lot of life. This is just one moment, one small zoomed in perspective. Living minimalist? No. So what? Okay. So one of our values is growth mindset. And that's why I do say you want to marry someone. So what we did is we made it fun. And anytime when we would have a moment where if I felt like I wanted to buy something that I couldn't have, Irfan we would talk it out. He would say something like, he's like, you get to have that, but I thought that you wanted a paid off house more, or I thought that you wanted, this thing more. So we would talk it and then we would make a plan. So for example, if I wanted a handbag, he wouldn't say I can't have it. He would say, we'll get it for your birthday. Or we weren't doing it where like now I can go walk into any store in any country and buy anything. It wasn't like that for us at that time because our priorities were different. And I do want you to focus, like really take this in. And I've been saying this from day one, but a lot of people, I think a lot of basic babes don't understand financial literacy. My self-aware Barbie clients, I don't have so much of an issue with, but if basic babes who this work is not intended for them, they can often think that day one, they're supposed to just be getting the whole thing, and it may not be like that. And the truth is then they end up choosing from a limited set of men that can give them the whole thing all at once right at this moment. And sometimes they overlook other traits in that guy. So Irfan, it wasn't just about the money. In fact, I was making more money than him when I met him, right? It was that he had all of the personal values, all of the family values that I really desired in a mate. And my family vetted him and saw the exact same things that I saw. Right. So I'll take one more questions and then I have to go, ladies. I have another appointment, but let me take one more. So I'll take Victoria. She said, I feel like my husband is starting to have resentment about me being at home with my son. It's been a couple months. So this can show up sometimes. And there's a couple reasons for this. Sometimes one thing you want to make sure is that it's an accurate read because, for example, sometimes it's just that men are taking one for the team. They want to also be at home with the child. They want to spend time with the kid too, right? With their baby, but they can't because they are being the provider and they're taking one for the team. So that can show up. It's not necessarily resentment, it's a longing to be with their child. And as a mom, I'm sure you can understand that. So, but what can happen is like you can start reading that as resentment towards you or sort of like negative energy. So understanding that where he's coming from and where it's coming from and saying things like, thank you so much. I know that you want to spend just as much time with our son and you want to be with him all the time. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. And, thank you for being the provider so we can do that. So like just appreciating it and letting him feel seen and heard. Hi, Shazad. Love you, babes. My friend and I are going to be doing something very special for you guys next week. We've got something very, very exciting coming up. Thank you, babes. So I think appreciating where that feeling is coming from, just because men provide, it doesn't mean it's easy. We know that now as self-aware Barbies, providing is hard. It's hard, right? There's a lot of things to deal with. And when you have a baby, of course he wants to stay home with the baby too, but he has to work. So appreciating him for giving you the opportunity to do so will help him. It will help him feel appreciated, and it will also remind him that he's taking one for the team. Okay. All right, babes. Love you too, Shazad. Love you, babe. Thank you. Thank you. All right, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. Class 2 was everything and more that I wanted it to be. And tomorrow we're doing class 3. Let me make sure that it's the same time. Yeah, so it's 11:11 tomorrow here. And in class 3, we're going into the berating. Now we're getting into, right now we were in the evolution of what it's been. Now we're getting into what we get to do, what we get to add to it, who we get to be. Yeah? Okay, bye everyone. Love you.